Hi, everybody. Paul Gray saying thanks for joining me for Grace with Paul Gray. Yesterday, I asked you to think about what your passion is. Worldly passions, even though they may be good, will ultimately disappoint us. And it's possible you may have been disappointed because God didn't answer your prayers. Maybe you felt like God didn't keep a promise you thought that He made regarding something that you were passionate about. Anybody ever feel like God didn't come through? I felt that way. Now, there are universal promises in the Bible, like God will give you a new heart, and He's already done that. God has a plan for you. I believe that's true. By Jesus' stripes, you're healed. That's true. In the unseen and eternal world, but it may not have manifested it yet in the seen and temporary world. But you can be confident that ultimately it will come true. How about things that aren't in the Bible, things that you believe you've heard God say that didn't come true? 9 years ago, I heard God say that my 29-year-old son-in-law would live, but he died of cancer. Some of you may have believed that you heard God say He would save or restore a marriage, but He didn't, or hasn't yet. Some of you may have believed that you heard God say He would take care of your own health, but you haven't seen that yet. Maybe you heard God say He was going to provide for you financially, and it hasn't happened yet. Most of us believe that God is continually working all things for the good for us. But there is a big elephant, maybe you heard of elephants, in the rooms of most churches and homes. You know, if I had the definitive answer for this elephant in the room, I could probably make a lot of money, but I don't. I have my understanding that I believe God has given me, and I'll tell you what that is. It is timing. God's timing. Most of the time, God's timing is different than ours. I mean, think about it. He's God. He knows everything. He can see the big picture beginning to the end. It's possible that His timing is perfect and maybe ours is not. We have a young couple in our church who needed a few $1,000s to fly to China before Christmas to finish the adoption process of their new daughter they were getting in China. God provided that the day before they had to buy the tickets at exactly the right time. Would they have liked to have had it beforehand? I would imagine so. What about my son-in-law? Well, he's totally healed now, has a new body. No sickness, no disease, no tears, no sin. Would he have liked to have been healed before he died? Well, of course. And we would have liked that too. I don't for a moment think that God needed him in heaven, or that God caused his cancer, or God was punishing him or any of us. There is evil in the world and bad stuff happens. And God works it all for the good in His timing. That's why faith is so important. When we do believe that God is working everything out for the good, and we understand that ultimately what that means is the restoration of all things, the culmination of everyone knowing they're in Christ, everyone, knowing God's unconditional love, everyone knowing that everyone is included, accepted, and made right with God, and that means we will all have all of God's abundance, perfect health, all our needs met, lavishly, everybody reconciled to God and each other, whether it's on this side or the other side of this life. Then we can do what Christ did. We can exercise His faith. He went to the cross because of His faith. Sure, He wanted the restoration of all things without going through His suffering. He even prayed, Father, if it's possible, I don't want to do this. Nevertheless, your will be done, not mine. And I believe He was speaking from a human standpoint. Now, since there is only one faith, Christ's faith, and since we have it, well, we can do the same thing. Yes, I'd like to have perfect health now like I did when I was in my 20s. I'd like to have it now. But I do have Christ's faith that in His timing I will have it. Yes, I'd like to have perfect, wonderful relationships with everybody, including those I've hurt and those who have hurt me. I'd like that right now. But I do have faith that in Christ's timing I will have it. Yes, I'd like thousands of people to buy my book, Convertible Conversations, because I believe it will help them see who God really is and what He's really like. And I have Christ's faith that in God's timing that will happen. How about you? Is there something you're believing God for that hasn't happened yet, but you're exercising Christ's faith that in God's timing it will happen? You have the faith of Christ that in God's timing it will happen. That timing may be in this life or may be in the life after. Hope that's helpful, folks. See you next time.